Hi, I'm Lizzie and this is Lizzie Reads and welcome to my mid-year review video. Now let's talk about my genres. And I didn't really see myself as a romance reader until this year, which is a shame, it's a crying shame. Being a mid-year freak-out tag, just because I look at the questions and quite a few of them, the answers would be repeats or really similar, and I just thought that I would try to do a sort of a reading review and reading wrap up. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my stats on Storygraph. I haven't finished filling out my reading spreadsheet stats, so there are a few stats missing which actually pertain to my goals. So I think I'm going to do maybe like a reading vlog where I look at my goals and I look at how if I'm reaching them or not reaching them, and try and sort of rectify that maybe. So I want to do videos about a few different things, like my favourite books of the year so far, things like that. But in this video we're going to be looking at my reading stats. Now let's get Storygraph up because that would be really helpful, wouldn't it? I just love a coffee in the morning. My hair's got really long again. He's a bloody die. So as of today, which is Wednesday the 14th of July, not the first of the month, which I intended to do, so we've gone a little bit over, but that's just where we are. I have read 97 books and equating to around 28,000 pages. Now, this might not be entirely accurate because I've noticed that not all of Storygraph's, like for example, a couple of the romance reads that I've read have said that they're not out yet when they are out, because I downloaded them on Kindle Unlimited. So I think the page count there hasn't quite updated, but it's approximately 28,000 pages. So I've read 97 books of my 140 book goal, so I'm absolutely smashing it this year. And actually I'd quite like to reach like maybe 150, 160 books. That'd be really good, but I'm not increasing it until I've reached it, because I don't know how I'm going to feel, what the rest of my year is going to be like. And my page goal was 45,000 books, and I think that's like 140 times however many books I wanted to read. No, 140 books times like an average page number of like 300, maybe 400. But I do read a lot of short books and a lot of graphic novels at the moment, so that will be part of why they're not all 100%. And that's why it's very up and down with my page count. So first of all, let's have a little look at my stats on Storygraph. One thing it does say here is it says I mainly read fiction books that are adventurous, light-hearted and reflective, and I typically choose fast-paced books that are under 300 pages long, which is interesting because I've just read so many graphic novels this year, so many, which I think equates to short books, as well as I really like short books and I really like long books, but you know. So let's have a look at my stats. Let's see what we've got. So first of all, for my reading mood, I'll put the little graphs up here. But my main pie is actually adventurous, which is 41 books. And then we've got 38 emotional books. And then my next biggest pie is 28 light-hearted books. So that's really interesting that I've got emotional and light-hearted there. Mainly I've just been reading really fun, easy reads this year. But I've read also a lot of books that made me cry. And then next, mysterious. These aren't in order. That's really weird. That's weird. And you can see like how much. Oh, okay. And then relaxing is the smallest portion. Obviously I've been stressed this year. In terms of my pace, so books that I've predominantly read books that are fast paced, 51 out of 97 is a good amount of fast paced books, and that is exactly what I've been in the mood for this year. That really reflects in how I've been feeling, and then 28 medium books and 18 slow books. Page number is funny actually, because like I said, I have read a lot of short books, and here I've read 44 books that are under 300 pages. So many graphic novels and short non-fiction books have really made up my reading so far this year. And then 300 to 499, I've read 43. So most of my reading has been under 500 pages. I've only read 10 books over 500 pages, which I don't I would have been able to predict that, because I've been mainly reading short books this year, even though I have enjoyed all of the long books that I have read. Next, there's no surprise again in this, is that my non-fiction to fiction ratio is very, there isn't much difference there, but 83 of my books have been fiction, so that's fiction, and then non-fiction we've got 7, which isn't too bad. I feel like I've read more than that, so that is weird, but potentially I just have really thought about the non-fiction that I've read. I find it harder to pick up non-fiction. I find it harder to sit there and think, actually, I'd really enjoy to read this non-fiction right now. Now let's talk about my genres. This has been battling throughout between my top 2 genres this year, which never would have thought of this last year, because my top 2 genres are romance and fantasy, and I didn't really see myself as a romance reader until this year. But looking here, I've read 37 romance books and 35 fantasy books, so they're very close together. And then my next genres underneath are young adult, LGBTQIA+, which is good. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a genre, but they've been categorised as genre, so 15 of those. I feel like I've read more than that, but I just feel like those are the ones that have been categorised. And then comics and graphic novels, really high, contemporary. Very few historical, children's, middle grade, feminism, history, and then just short categories that are, there's a bit of crossover, but I think it's their primary the category the genre they come into primarily. So yeah, that's pretty good. I was expecting to see romance really high here, because as you may know, I've been loving romance this year. I'll link down below some of the videos where I've talked about romance, because they are, I've been really getting into it, and I've been really enjoying Kindle Unlimited reads and just reading books that other people aren't, and not everyone is cup of tea for everyone, but I've been really liking it. And then interestingly enough, it's the number of books to pages. Now this I don't think is entirely accurate, because I haven't always updated my story graph like when I start and finish the book, but mostly the dates are right, and it's definitely right in saying that my June was my best month for reading. I read 24 books, I think, and so many pages, and interesting enough that the only month where the pages has been considerably higher is February. I don't even know what I read in February. Must have just read some long books there. And finally, onto my star rating. It says 95 reviews, so there's obviously 2 there that I haven't reviewed. But my average rating is 3.78, and my biggest rating, like I've rated most books 3 stars, and that's 29 books. But if you look everything is mostly 3.5 and upwards, and I've had 13 5-star books, 5-star reads this year, which is great. 5 4.7 stars, 7 4.5, and 5 4.25 stars, so that's really good. I've read mostly positively this year, as I do most of the year, but I've definitely rated a lot more books 3 stars that in previous years I would have rated 4 stars, and I'm hoping to try and rate more like to how I actually feel. Sometimes I feel like my ratings are a bit skewed based on enjoyment, but mostly I do primarily rate for enjoyment, because that is the main factor for me. is whether I enjoyed a book. There are things that I knock off because I find I might have enjoyed it, but that doesn't mean. So a lot of the romance books I've read, I don't rate, even though I would give them a 5 for enjoyment, like alone. Some of the problematic elements of romance books, or certainly some that I've read this year, that I can't warrant the 5 stars. So sorry, my glasses just steamed up. Put my coffee away. But that's really all I came to talk to you about. Let's run through the stats. Let's enjoy the stats. But basically, I'm just a romance, fantasy loving bitch, really. I love romance, I love fantasy, but I feel like I've not read enough of either of those. And I feel like there's so much more I want to read from both of them. I just feel like there's so much time, not enough time to read, which is a shame. It's a crying shame. Yes, so this is like the first of a few videos that I'm going to talk about my mid-year stuff, but I won't go on too long about my mid-year, like my reading is so far, because I know not everybody wants to see it after the fact's already basically passed. But thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye. I am already intrigued and brutal. Had I not stopped for a cry?